All right, welcome back to ABA Exam Review and the continuation of our RBT Practice Exam series, where we're going through another set of questions together and breaking them down. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Please like and subscribe for all of our updates. Check out btexamreview.com for our RBT Combo Pack and our other study materials. When you pass your exam, please let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. Let's get going. Alex has started to request his favorite book by saying book, book. A week ago, Alex said book, please. And then yesterday, he said Curious George book, which he was never taught. What does Alex's behavior most resemble? So we have a behavior question. Let's first identify whose behavior we're talking about. And in this question, it's pretty easy because there's only one person involved, who is Alex. So we're now looking at Alex's behavior. What do we know about his behavior so far? Well, we know he started to request a favorite book by saying book, book. So he sees book or he wants book. He says book, book. A week ago, he said book, please. And then yesterday, he said Curious George book. So what we have here are multiple responses, some that were never taught, that are occurring in the presence of the same stimulus. So when we have multiple responses, including responses that weren't taught, occurring in the presence of a single stimulus, what do we consider that? A, response generalization. Yes, this is response generalization. It's demonstrating Alex can request the book by saying book, book, and he's also emitting other responses in the presence of the want for the book, including book, please, and Curious George book. And importantly, those responses were never taught, which is really hammering home the idea of generalization. Why is it not stimulus generalization? With stimulus generalization, instead of multiple responses for a single stimulus, we're looking at a single response across multiple stimuli. So if Alex was going to multiple books and not just his favorite and saying book, book, then we might be talking about stimulus generalization. But that's not the case here. We have multiple responses for this single stimulus. There's no shaping going on. And why? Well, we're not looking at approximations of behavior. We're not looking at reinforcing the approximations. We're simply looking at the generalization of the responses. And then a coex. A coex is a type of verbal behavior where the listener repeats whatever the speaker said, or I should say the speaker repeats what was heard. And in this case, nobody is saying book, please, or Curious George book, or book, book. Alex is just saying it. So what we're looking at and what Alex's behavior most resembles is going to be A, response generalization. You're assisting with a functional behavior assessment for a new client. Following the assessment, your supervisor asks you to start taking baseline data on talking back, whining, and crying when asked by mom to do something. What will the baseline data help explain? This is a baseline data question, and as a behavior technician, you will be taking baseline data. When do we take baseline data? Before or after the intervention? We take baseline data before the intervention. And what does baseline data help us learn? Or what does baseline data tell us about the behavior or the skill or whatever we're measuring? Well, in this case, your supervisor wants you to take baseline on talking back, whining, and crying when asked by mom to do something. So if we kind of visualize that, if you're taking baseline, maybe you're taking frequency, and every time the behavior occurs, you make a mark. Now, what will that data help explain about the behavior? A, the effectiveness of the intervention. A is just very wrong, right? Because baseline comes before the intervention, so there's no intervention in place. Therefore, baseline can't explain the effectiveness of any intervention because there's no intervention in place during baseline. B, the function of the behavior. Baseline does not identify the function. Ideally, we should know the function prior to baseline. Function should be part of the functional behavior assessment. And once we know the function and we know what we're targeting, then we can start to take the baseline data on the behavior. But the baseline data is not going to help identify the function. See the current level of the behavior prior to the intervention. Exactly. We're now taking baseline data on the current level of the behavior. So where is the behavior at right now? We haven't intervened. We haven't changed anything. We haven't changed the environment. We just want to know what is the current status of the behavior. And then D, the effectiveness of positive reinforcement on the behavior. We're not looking at consequences here. In baseline, we're not delivering consequences. We're simply observing and measuring. So we're not looking for the effectiveness of any consequence. What we're looking at is the current level of the behavior prior to intervention. Why baseline data is so important. Sally, a behavior technician, is in the middle of her session when her client's mom tells Sally she is going out to the store, but she will be back in 10 minutes. No one else is home except for Sally and the client, and Sally is not authorized for community based service. What should Sally do first? This is kind of just a general service question with a little bit of ethics thrown in there. Whatever company you work for will have a policy for this kind of thing, but just in general, you are really not supposed to be by yourself with the client. And for many, many different reasons, but above all else, right, our main objective is to keep the client safe and do no harm. And you being alone with the client, we're not intending for anything bad to happen or expecting it, but a lot of things can go wrong. So in this case, when Sally is in the middle of her session and the mom says, well, I'll be back in 10 minutes, which happens, what is Sally supposed to do? No one else is home, and Sally is not supposed to go on community based service. So what should Sally do first? Put yourself in Sally's shoes. A, keep the client safe until the mom returns home. No, Sally should not be alone with the client. Sally is not a babysitter, right? So even putting aside the ethical concerns, Sally isn't a babysitter. She is a behavior technician. She's providing a service. B, ride with the mom to the store with the client. Well, we know Sally's not authorized for the community-based service. B is out of the question. C, end services immediately and contact your supervisor. Maybe, but is there a different approach Sally can take before she immediately cancels service? Well, she can say D or do D, explain to the mom that she cannot be at the house alone with the client. Remember, what's the first step, right? We're looking at what could be first. Well, before we cancel session, Sally can easily explain that I'm not allowed to be here by myself. And if the mom says okay, session can continue. If the mom is not okay with that, well, then we can move on maybe to ending services. But if we're talking about what Sally can do first, before she goes out, before she cancels service and costs a client, right? Because we're worried about the client a day of ABA, she should take some measures first, like explaining to the mom she cannot be at the house alone with the client. And for whatever reason she'd like to give, it's just a matter of fact. So the first thing Sally should do is say, I cannot be here alone with the client. You, a behavior technician, are sitting with your friend at a restaurant when the child at the table next to you throws a tantrum. Parents apologize and say, sorry, he has autism. What should you do in this situation? Now, you're a behavior technician, and if you have a lot of experience, right, you're well trained, and you're probably pretty familiar with what autism looks like if you work with kids with autism or adults with autism. However, are you allowed to, or are you qualified to give unsolicited advice to people in public? Of course not. It's not our job. The only people we should be giving advice to, even as BCBAs, really, are our clients. Because even as a BCBA myself, I would have to do a full behavior assessment before offering any advice. So when someone asks me, well, how would you handle this? I might give some general tips, but if I really want to get into it, I need to do a full assessment. So if you're sitting at a restaurant and the parent says, well, sorry, he has autism, that doesn't give you the opening to start being a behavior technician. So what should you do? A, offer advice on how to handle the behavior. That's not your role, right? Not your place to do that for this family that you have no association with. B, call our supervisor and ask if they have any suggestions. We definitely shouldn't do that. It's definitely not the supervisor's place either. C, quickly teach the parents how to put the behavior on extinction. Definitely shouldn't do that either, right? Not only are there safety concerns with putting behavior we know nothing about on extinction, it's just not your role. It's not your place as a technician. And then D, accept the apology and do nothing further. This is how you should handle it. It does not give you the opening to go around and trying to fix and teach every problem you see. It's not our role, right? It's not our job. We don't have any connection to this family. We have no assessments. We have no information or background. So we cannot just dive in and start trying to fix problems that we are not associated with. Which of the following examples does not represent antecedents or consequences that are socially mediated? The main idea here is this idea of social mediation or socially mediated. In ABA, we have two types of consequences typically. We have automatic and socially mediated. Automatic means you're providing the consequence to yourself, there's no second party involved. Socially mediated says there's another person or persons involved who are delivering the antecedents or consequences or whatever it may be. Question wants us to answer what example does not represent social mediation, meaning three likely do represent social mediation. So, A, James Bond asks for a vodka martini and the bartender hands him the made drink. Is this socially mediated? Well, it is. James Bond wants a martini, he asks. A second person gives him the drink. That is socially mediated. B, you open your fridge and grab your favorite beverage before sitting on the couch. How many people are involved here? Only you, nobody else involved. B is not socially mediated, so B looks pretty good. C, the waiter takes your order and then brings out your food when it is ready. Again, it is socially mediated. You give your order, the waiter puts it in, it's ready, they bring it out. And then D, you notice the ice machine is out of ice, so you inform the manager of the restaurant. Again, multiple parties involved, it's all socially mediated. The one example that is not socially mediated is B. You open your fridge and grab your favorite beverage before sitting on the couch. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe for all of our updates. Check out btexamreview.com for all of our study materials. When you pass your exam, let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. See you soon.